think I'm staying very on topic. It may take me a while to show that to you, but one of the things that we were just talking about before the webinar started is how much technology has changed. And when I started my company 25 years ago, there were no video recordings of classes. There were no online classes. You had to be physically in the room with the instructor to have a class. And so the change that has happened in the past 25 years is a lot. And the change that has happened in the last 3 years is a lot. The change in technology, the change in communication around the world, the change in remote work and people being able to work and travel and be in different places is a huge change. And with that change also comes uncertainty. You know, I have a son who just graduated university a year ago with an accounting degree. And the question is, what is the accounting profession going to look like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in the future? How is technology? How is AI? How are communications? How are all of those things going to impact the work that we have? And so the question a lot of people have as they're going through university and starting their career, will my profession, and it's every profession that people need to ask this question, will my profession exist the way it does now, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in the future? And when we talk about accounting and we talk about finance and we talk about internal audit and we talk about consulting, financial accounting, all of these professions are changing and they will continue to change. They've changed a lot in the past few years. They're going to continue to change even more as we go forward. But don't worry, there will still be jobs for people who understand the profession. If you are sitting there today and you are thinking, what I want to do in my career is I want to enter data into the computer. I want to have a stack of invoices and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to enter all the data. Okay, if that's what you want to do with your career, you will not have a job. You probably already don't have a job because technology is improving how it is that data is captured, data is entered into the system. And so, yes, manual data entry is not going to exist for very much longer if it hasn't already disappeared. But I don't think any of you watching this, in whatever country you're in watching this right now, that's not what you want to do. That's not your career goal to do data entry. You want to run a company. You want to make decisions for the company. You want to be part of the leadership team that's deciding, are you going to make this merger? Are you going to make that investment? Are you going to establish a new product line? Are you going to build a new production facility? Those are the questions that you want to be involved in your career. And for those people and those positions and what you want to do in your career, AI is going to be a required tool that you need to use and you need to know how to use. It's not going to eliminate your job if you know how to do it, if you know how to use AI. And I'm going to give you an example of this, okay, a kind of a personal life example that will tell you how old I am. When I graduated from university, and this was 31 years ago, when I graduated from university and I prepared my CV to get a job, my first job, I included on my CV that I knew how to use a computer and I knew how to use a word processor and a spreadsheet. Okay, it wasn't Word and Excel back then. I don't remember what they were called. But I knew how to use a word processor and a spreadsheet. And I put that on my CV because 30 years ago, that made me different. I was unique. Most of the other people graduating with me didn't have that same experience. So that made me unique. Now, imagine today, if you went into a job interview for any position, accounting, finance, any related position, and they asked you about Excel, and they said, can you use Excel? And you sit there and you think, well, I've heard about Excel. People talk about it all the time. But I'll tell you, smart. And I have a really good calculator. I don't need Excel. If you try to get a job today and you don't know how to use Excel, you are not going to get a job. That will be the end of the interview when you say, I'm sorry, I don't use Excel. I'm just really smart. I don't need it. You're not going to get a job. So the way I look at AI today is that AI today is what Excel was 30 years ago. It was coming. Some people knew how to use it. Everybody heard about it, but not everybody could actually use it to its fullest potential. And 30 years ago, people were concerned that Excel was going to eliminate the accounting profession. With Excel, anybody can do accounting. We won't need to be accountants. Everybody will just use Excel. Clearly, that didn't happen. Excel is so much more powerful than it used to be, and yet accountants, finance people, auditors, internal auditors, all still have jobs. And Excel has become a tool that allows us to do our job better because of the tools that Excel gives us. That's what AI is. It's a new set of tools. Very powerful tools, yes, but they're tools. And we need to know how to use them to help the company that we work for make money, increase our revenue, decrease our expenses. We need to be able to use those tools, these new tools that are coming, to be able to do our job. So as you are sitting there, whatever stage of your career you're in, and you're thinking about AI, what should I do about AI? Very simple. Learn. Learn about it. Use it. Use it for things in your personal life. Sit down and go into whatever program, find on LinkedIn, somebody's got, here's a course about how to use AI to do this. Watch it. Spend 15, 20 minutes watching it, playing with it. What is it that you can learn how the tools of AI, even just the basic tools that are now included in browsers and Word and Excel, you need to learn what the capabilities are, because there's some wonderful things that it can do that will help you do your job faster, do your job better than you'd ever been able to do it. I want to give two examples in terms of making certain that we understand what AI is and how it is that we need to be able to use it in a way that will actually add value to the organization, actually be able to add value to what it is that we're doing. And this isn't, when I talk about using AI, it isn't just a casual, I'm able to do a better search than I was able to do before, something like that. But what we need to look at with AI is how it will actually provide financial benefit to the organization you work for. And by providing financial benefit, I mean, there's a lot of things about AI that we can do with AI that are fun, that are interesting, that we can get data and we can sort the data and we can make charts and we can make graphs and we can do all of these things with AI. But it really comes down to knowing how to use AI to help your business. There's a lot of things that we can use AI for that are interesting and fun, but it needs to add revenue or decrease expenses for the business. And I'll give an example of what I'm talking about, the difference between interesting AI or perhaps even useful AI, but AI that has a benefit to the company. So here's the situation. And we were talking about snow where I live and where just where there's snow. And so airports get closed when it snows. Airports get closed when it snows. And so when it snows and all the airplane flights out of that airport for a day are canceled, the airlines have to get everybody back on another plane on another day to get them to the city that they need to go to. Well, AI can help with that. AI can look through all of the different people, all of the different combinations and flights and routes to get people to where they need to go. And AI may help people find a better flight a little bit faster, or maybe even a lot faster. As a customer, I'm very happy about that. I get home sooner, I get home with less stress. That's great. But from the standpoint of the business, of the airline, the question is this. Yes, we made our customers a little bit happier in a situation that they weren't happy. But did the airline make more revenue as a result of that use of AI? Did the airline reduce costs as a result of that use of AI? Now, maybe if they were able to get more passengers home more quickly, they did save some money. They didn't have to provide hotels or food for as long, whatever. But when we're looking at how we can use AI in the future, you need to be learning what the tools are. You need to be learning what those tools can do. But you need to be looking for learning what it is that those tools can do that will add financial value to your organization. What's going to increase revenue? What's going to decrease costs? And so if we look at AI from that standpoint of having to add value to the business, if it could make a fancy PowerPoint presentation for you, okay, that's nice. And it's better than a bad PowerPoint presentation. But whether or not your slides have the company colors or don't have the company colors doesn't make revenue or reduce expenses for the organization. So part of what you need to be doing as you look at AI and learn the skills for AI, try to make certain you understand what AI can do. Maybe you don't know how to do it all yourself right now, but you need to be looking at what are the things that companies actually do to increase their revenue as a result of AI. What are the things that companies are able to do to decrease their costs as a result of using AI? AI is not free. Okay, there is a cost to AI. It may not be a huge cost yet, but the cost is going to increase. So we need to be able to do that. Now, the second thing, there was a study done with lawyers. Okay, so not accountants, but with lawyers. And the study was about AI and how AI impacted the work that the lawyers did. And essentially what this study found when they did it was that AI helped good lawyers be better lawyers. But AI did not help bad lawyers be good lawyers. I say it may have helped bad lawyers be bad lawyers faster, but AI can't make a bad lawyer good because AI responds to what you tell it, what you ask it. If you don't ask AI the right question, you're not going to get the right answer. And so what this means is, bringing this back, you may have thought I forgot about the topic at hand, but I didn't. This brings us back to CMA and FMAA and the role of those exams in your future. When you go to work and you're using AI, you still need to remember and understand what a business does. There's revenue, there's costs, what incurs the costs, how do we make decisions, what information do we need to make those decisions? You still need to know everything about how a business operates so that you can use the tools in AI to run that business better, to operate that business more profitably, to increase your revenues or to decrease your costs. If you don't understand costing, if you don't understand how to set a price, if you don't understand break-even analysis, if you don't understand capital budgeting, if you don't understand budgeting, you aren't going to be able to use the tools that AI gives you to do those things better. AI is the tool. It is not the set itself. You have to know what the company is trying to do and how it needs to go about doing that. And when you know how the business should be operating, when you understand costing and you understand the difference between a fixed cost and a variable cost, and you understand how it is that you should make those decisions about the unused capacity that you have in the factory, then you can use AI to help you make better decisions or get better information to make those decisions. But you still need to know what it is that the business is doing, the information you need to make those decisions. And that's what CMA does. That's what FMAA builds the foundation for. I've been teaching CMA for over 25 years now. And in those 25 years that I've been teaching CMA, the syllabus has changed. Topics have come in, topics have gone out, but some of the topics have been there the whole 25 years because they are the foundation of how a business operates and the decisions that people need to make to operate their business. That hasn't changed. AI hasn't changed. Revenue minus cost equals profit. Hasn't changed that at all. It hasn't changed costs and how costs behave. Nothing's changed about how a business makes profit, sustains to make investments into the future. And so CMA, whatever part of your career in, whether you're wanting to go into accounting or finance or consulting, or you want to start your own business, CMA teaches you what a business does and the decisions that a business needs to make, starting from planning and budgeting and how we start with what we think we're going to sell, and then we determine how much we're going to produce, and then we determine if that's how many units we're going to produce, this is how many people we need, this is how many materials we need, this is the factory space that we need. What's the cost of your product? How do you set the price of your product? When a customer calls and says, I need to buy a lot one time, all of those decisions that are in CMA are the decisions that companies need to make. And so if you want to be that finance director in the future, you want to be that director, you want to be the person in a business, whether it's a small business or a large business, if you want to be the person who's making the decisions, you need to understand the fundamentals of how a business operates. And that hasn't changed. AI didn't change that. Excel didn't change that. How a business operates is thousands of years old. Hasn't changed. Okay. Some of the details about it, and markets have gotten bigger. We can ship things around the world. Our customers are around the world. That's changed. But ultimately, any business needs to provide a product or service that people are willing to pay for, that they can provide that product or service at a cost less than what it is that people are willing to pay for. CMA helps you know that part of it. And so as you're studying CMA, you are learning what you need to know so you can go and get the right tool to help you make that decision. AI is going to change the tools that are available to you. There's going to be more tools, more powerful tools. But if you don't know the question you're trying to answer, you don't know what it is that's most important for your business, AI can't help you because AI is a tool. AI by itself doesn't run your business. It needs you to make it so that AI is able to be that tool that you need for what it is that your company is going to need. So that's CMA. FMAA is the foundation to CMA. Okay, CMA is a very rigorous exam. If you're still at university or just in the early stages of your career, you may decide it's better off to start with FMAA, make certain you get that foundation, and then take the step into CMA. And so that, I mean, that's a question that I can't give you an answer for right now as to whether or not you should start with FMAA or CMA. But what you need to be doing right now and for the rest of your career is continuing to learn. And part of that learning is kind of that technical debits and credits, overhead allocation, business decision making. And another part of that are the tools that you need to be able to use to do that. How do you use Excel? How do you use AI? And part of that knowledge about AI is you need to be able to identify what AI can do. And then you can find somebody that can help you build the tool with AI. But you need to know what the capabilities are. And that starts with watching a video, watching on LinkedIn. Okay, I'm not on Instagram, so I don't know what's on Instagram, but I'm assuming occasionally on Instagram there is something about AI. And so you need to make a decision that every day I'm going to spend 10 minutes watching somebody talk to me about what AI can do. I understand that you are not in a position today to go build your own LLM and build all of that out yourself, but you need to know what the tool can do. You need to know what the possibilities are and slowly learn. What are the things, the skills, what are the courses you need to learn how to do to give the right prompt, to be able to ask AI in an efficient way to get the answer that you need? How can you ask AI? And you still need to be able to understand whether or not what AI told you is correct or not. AI is not always correct. We know that. We hear that. We see that. They give examples of things that AI just gives the wrong answer for. And so you can't just blindly say, oh, that's what AI told me, so that's what I'm going to put in my report. Okay, you start making reports, simply what comes out of AI, it might be your last report because there might be something in it that's so wrong. They don't want to report like that. And so this is something that it's going to be part of what it is that you need to continuously do, continuous education. I know that I believe that CMA is a very, very, very good first certificate, first certification. As you begin your career, a lot of options, a lot of doors are open with CMA. Accounting, finance, consulting, all kinds of opportunities you're learning for when you study CMA. But if you're just starting your career, CMA is not going to be the last certification that you get. Because after you've been working for 5 years, you're going to start to specialize. You're going to be in treasury. You're going to be in corporate finance. You're going to have moved to internal audit. And in those areas where you begin to specialize, there are other certifications. There's other things you need to know in great depth. And so you will continue to have to learn. And sometimes that next step of learning for you is going to be a certification. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a course here, it's a course there, it's something you can find that isn't a long program. But you need to be prepared that every year for the rest of your career, you need to be learning something. And I'll kind of wrap up this. I've been going a little bit longer than perhaps I thought I would have at the beginning, but I've said this. This is not something I made up, but I heard it, and I think it's correct. And so, in the question about your future and will you have a future in the world of AI, you will not lose your job to AI. But you will lose your job to somebody who knows how to use AI better than you do. It's a tool. And these tools go through, there's new tools developed. Excel was the tool that was developed at the beginning of my career. AI is the tool that's coming more towards the end of my career. You need to know how to use the tools to do your job. CMA, FMAA, that's the knowledge that you need. It's the foundation that you need. But you need to be able to utilize the tools that are available, and those tools in the future are going to be through AI. And so I encourage you to keep learning. The accounting profession is going to look different in the future. We're still going to be doing fundamentally the same thing, but it's going to be done differently. And you need to keep learning, keep expanding a growth mindset so that you're ready to be the one for your organization that makes the decisions in the future. So I will stop for now, and I will thank you for the opportunity. I am going to stay here, and so when we get to the Q&A part, I will still be here for the Q&A part to be able to answer any questions, but I will turn over the microphone right now.
Absolutely. So it was really interesting and tempting, Brian, to hear your thoughts about the AI and the usage of AI. And I really like the way you connected the dots between the AI, CMA, and FMAA. So I wanted to share some of my background. I'm a CMA too, so I shifted to consulting. I used to work for Deloitte and as an Oracle expert. So a big part.
Well, I want to interrupt you for just 1 second. I know a lot of times when people talk about CMA, it's accounting and finance is what's mentioned. I personally think consulting is ideal for a CMA learns how a business should operate. Consultants go and tell businesses how they should operate.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that CMA is exactly that: budgeting, decision making, all of those things that are covered in CMA are what businesses don't know how to do.
Yeah.
And so to say you went into consulting and you're a CMA, to me, thank you. You're an example of what it is that I think is kind of a not forgotten, but often overlooked career path that CMAs are prepared very well to go into.
Exactly. And to your point, as you mentioned about the planning and budgeting, back in the days when it shifted from accounting and finance to consulting, we used to use Oracle planning, and AI wasn't introduced at that point of time. So recently in 2023, when AI introduced to Oracle products, it made a big boom. So it gave CFOs and finance leaderships the opportunity to focus more on decision making and analytics rather than thinking about scenario analysis, for example. Like AI can now run tons of scenario analysis and give you the best answer. And as a CFO or a finance leader, you would be more focused on reading the numbers, reading behind the lines, and thinking about the strategic decisions that you have to take using your CMA knowledge.
Well, and what the risk that businesses have today and individuals is there is too much information in the world. We know what browser people use to study our materials. I haven't figured out yet how that's important to me. But when you think about just when you walk around with your phone, how much information is being collected and how much we know about a customer and every email. So there is so much data that it would be very easy for the CFO just to give me more data. Let's keep looking at all of this data. But what CMA does is it helps you identify, this is the data that I don't need. This doesn't help. This is the data that I need. And maybe then we can focus on getting better data from what I need But if you don't know what you need, you're not able to focus on anything, and you spend days and weeks getting more and more information that's completely irrelevant to the decision you're making, and you never make a decision. So you need to know what you're looking for and what you're not looking for as you make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think it's not only about consulting, it's also people who are still in the business. For example, like Ahmed, he's a finance leader. He works in a venture capital company, and he really more focused on decision making and rapid decision making, if we can say, because his industry is really crazy fast. So if he doesn't have enough knowledge and quicker tools to help him take better decisions, I don't think he will have major challenges in his career.
The most thing helped me in my work career now is CMA. I have a CMA and MBA and FMVA, but when I'm working a daily work, finance lead of venture capital funds, investing in various of companies in e-commerce, in SaaS, and technology, and in AI companies. I have a lot of operations different from each other. That's why I need to verify. I need to have a basic knowledge to understand this operation, how to work, the operation cycle and the costing, and how to analyze the large and better and non-normalized data every day. That's why I really could recommend for CMA. It's really certificate to have a lot of data about accounting and costing and budgeting and whatever, and in internal audit as well. It's very, very rich information. And you, Mr. Brian Hock, you have a magnificent book, have a lot of information and easy to study. It was a very helpful book for CMA studying. This is my my practice in my company now, and previously as CMA, very helpful for us. I like to know something about how can we connect the CMA to use it and understand and to make a dynamic reports by AI. Hossam shared with me before a perfect report and dynamic Excel sheet made by AI. It was very, very easy to use. A lot in linking between the several sheets in the same file. So you can, Hossam, explain your practice that you showed us 2 days ago.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was going to say that's somebody else can answer that. You may have asked that to somebody else, and so that's okay. I'll just be quiet.
Yeah, so I want to share my experience with actually Deloitte and other tech companies I'm working for with using the AI in a day-to-day operation. And actually, now it is in a tech industry here in North America, it is mandatory to have AI knowledge, and not only a shallow knowledge. It should be a deep knowledge, because we use it on a day-to-day, so several times. For example, the Excel model that I shared with Ahmed is, I talk to CFOs and they don't have any expectations about how their system will look like after it's being implemented. And I used to spend like 1 month building an Excel model just to mimic how the system will look like after the implementation. And now with AI, just with the right prompt, to your point, Brian, just right question, you will get the right answer. Just in less than 1 minute with the right prompt, AI generated this Excel model in less than a minute. And the other step for the AI now, we do have tools in the tech companies that it analyzes the ERP system and analytics. So the AI can generate a report, tells you, hey, there is some missing invoice number in here. This invoice doesn't make sense. This report doesn't make sense. And we used to spend a lot of time as an accountant and chief accountants to figure out these issues.
I think the one thing I want to add to that is you have to know where to limit the information that goes in, though, because the decision maker who doesn't want all of the unnecessary information, and this is something we see if you just scroll through LinkedIn, people use AI to create charts. And you can always tell when it's an AI chart because there's too much in it. It's like AI took every possible piece of information it knows about a topic and put it into one sheet of paper. And you can't follow it from one step to the other because there's so much information. It's kind of a strange example. When you teach a topic, and this is going back to when I was, you talk to somebody who teaches a lot. There's a learning curve for a teacher and how you explain a topic. And at the beginning, when you teach it the first few times, you're kind of short because you say what you know. And then the more you teach it, the more you learn about it, you start saying more and more, and it takes longer to teach the topic because you have all this information that you want to share and you want to tell everybody everything you know. But then there's a point where you really, truly understand that information, and the amount of time it takes you to teach it comes down because you're able to start connecting this piece of information to other topics. And this topic doesn't become a topic all by itself. It's a puzzle piece of a larger picture. And so when you really understand what you're talking about, you become shorter in how long it takes you to communicate because you know what's important and you focus on what's important. And that's this whole thing about data. There is so much data. We could make graphs and charts and tables and Excel files for weeks, but we don't need all of that. There's 3 main pieces of information and we need to make this decision. And let's connect those 3 pieces of information and analyze that and not focus on all of this other stuff. And so it comes back to, we need to know what the decision is and what is the information that we need to make that decision so we don't make a dashboard that has so much on it, a person looking at the dashboard doesn't know what to look at. There is information overload, and that's what makes that report so good. You knew what was important and were able to tell AI, do this. Don't do everything.
Exactly.
This is what I need. This is what I need analyzed. Give me as much information about this and only this. Ignore everything else. But if you don't understand what you're trying to do, you ask AI for everything, and you have so much you can't figure out what's important. So it's all a matter of knowing what it is you're trying to have AI help you do. And that's CMA.
Absolutely right. I remember one time I was with OpenAI folks from ChatGPT founders, and they mentioned one of the challenges they always face with their fresh engineers is prompt engineering.
Yeah.
Most of the people, they don't know what to ask AI, what the right prompt to write, how to input information to get the correct answer.
Well, and that was a problem with Google. When Google first came out, what was the question? How did you search in Google for the information you wanted? And this is, I know this isn't accurate, but ChatGPT is just a really powerful Google. Okay, I understand that's not a direct comparison, but on one level, it's just a really powerful tool like Google. Well, if you had to learn how to ask Google a question, you also need to learn how to ask the question out of AI, because there's so much more scope of an answer than there was before. And so, right, it's a question of what is the question? How do you ask the question? How do you re-ask the question? How do you understand that the answer it gave you isn't exactly what you're looking for? It sounds good, but it's not exactly the question you asked. And so you need to ask again and get it focused to where it needs to go.
Yeah, that's true.
And in addition to what you say, is the result that the AI gave it to you, is it correct, or you should use your expertise to show if it's correct or it needs to edit somehow? I remember I have a quick presentation about equity multiplier. I asked AI and he gave it to me, but I suspect somehow the figures. I put it in a table and I found that he didn't give me the correct answer. That's why we are using what we learned before. So we are not using the AI as it is. We should learn first, then using AI.
Yes, I accept.
I'll
Moataz.
I'll give an example of that. And this, I just tried to, there used to be a topic that was on the CMA exam. It's not anymore. I think it had to do with Macaulay duration or duration hedging, something like that. And if you went into Google and said Macaulay duration hedging, whatever the term was, I don't remember what it was, but it would give you the top 10 results. And I used to do this before I would teach this in class to show the class. More than half of those top 10 results were wrong. They weren't really what this topic was. It was kind of correct, but not. And so we need to keep in mind that AI is only learning us.
Yes.
And so before, I mean, what AI does is it takes those top 10 sites and puts them all together for me automatically. Whereas before with Google, I had to open the first one, open the second one, open the third one, and then I myself had to combine them all. Well, if you ask somebody to write a report and you give them 10 documents and 5 of them are wrong, your report's not going to be right. It can't be. And so it is very possible that whatever tool it is, it goes and chooses data that's not really good data or not really applicable, or they choose somebody who's got a really popular website that's really wrong, and that becomes your source of information that you're going to take to your boss and say, well, here's my report on duration hedging. And if the boss is going to look at it and say, no, I hope this is not your report because it's wrong. Just because Google thought that was the definition doesn't mean that is the definition. And so if you don't know what the answer should look like, if you're not able to read that answer and critically think, does this actually do what I need it to do? Does this answer the question I asked? Is this using the right information? You're going to make decisions they may look pretty because AI gave you a really nice PowerPoint and graphs and charts and tables and flow charts. But at the end of the report, somebody's going to look at you and say, Brian, that was all pretty, but I'm sorry, it's wrong. That's the wrong information.
Right. Yeah.
Substance over 4.
Yeah. Well,
I
know that there have been some questions that were asked about exams. And so is it okay if I go and answer some of these?
Yes.
Yeah. So
very good. Go ahead.
Let's start
get back to the
beginning
task at hand here. So one of the questions was, why do I think CMA is different from other accounting certifications, and why do I think it's such a good one? And the answer to that is, first, I don't want to say that the other certifications are bad, because that's not the case. I mean, all these big known certifications. What I like about CMA is it's really about how a business operates. You're not spending time learning taxes, because taxes are different in different countries. You're not spending time learning things that are not about what a business does. And so an example is, if you take even a small business, doesn't have to be a very large business, and you look at what CMA does and what CMA covers, everything that's on CMA, that small business either is doing or should be doing. Now, I understand that when we talk about capital budgeting for a large multinational corporation, and maybe the examples we use, they're going to buy a $5 million machine. And I understand a small business is not buying a $5 million machine, but for that small business, the new computer system is a significant capital investment. And that small business needs to know what are the questions we should ask as we make this decision. Should we change our computer system? Should we buy the new piece of equipment? Should we buy a new car or a new truck this year? Everything that's on the CMA exam is what a business actually does. And so when I taught CPA, and I taught CPA for 20 some years, there are whole parts of the CPA exam that people will never use in their career. Okay. I come to Egypt and I start teaching US taxation for the CPA exam.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Make sense. Yeah.
Who cares? You're not going to pay US taxes. Your company's not going to ask you to fill out their US tax declarations. It just becomes an academic exercise. But if you go through the CMA exam, every company has internal controls.
Yeah.
A lot of companies probably should have more internal controls than they have right now. But everything that's about CMA is practical. It's what a business does. And this gets back to what I said about consulting. This is a great foundation for consulting, because if you go to your consulting client and you ask them and you say, so, how do you cost out your product? And they say, well, we take our total cost from last year, we divided it by the total number of units we purchased, and that was our cost per unit. And you can say, yes, that is your cost per unit. That's really not the one you should be using to make decisions, unless you only make one product, in which case maybe you can. But it's a matter of knowing what it is that a business should be doing. So there were some questions about how CMA and FMAA line up and how they compare. If you are already a CMA, you should not do FMAA. Okay, there's no reason to do FMAA. On the FMAA exam, there are 5 sections. Okay, the first section is debits and credits. There's some other things too, but for the most part, it's debits and credits. Everything from section B, C, D, and E, I think I have the right letters, B, C, D, and E, everything from the syllabus of FMAA, from sections B, C, D, and E, is on CMA. Word for word from the syllabus. So here's what they've done. In CMA, there is financial statement analysis, ratio analysis. And I think there's like 77 ratios in CMA. Some 82, whatever, I don't know, some number like that. In FMAA, there are ratios, 25 ratios. And it's the 25 most basic ratios. It goes into, the quick ratio, the current ratio, the debt to equity ratio, return on assets, return on equity. In CMA, it's those same 25 ratios plus 50 some more advanced ratios. In FMAA, we do materials variance analysis and direct labor variance analysis. On CMA, there's material and labor, then there's overhead variance analysis, and then there's multiple types of labor, multiple types of materials. So what FMAA is it is an introduction to CMA. If you have already studied debits and credits, FMAA, that first section is going to be very easy. You still need to study it because you might not remember everything that you thought you were. But if you haven't studied debits and credits before, Section A is going to take a little longer, just because there's a process to understand how debits and credits work. But so if you've done CMA, you don't need to go back and do FMAA. If you've done CMA and you want something else, we can talk about CSCA as a wonderful next step after CMA, but that's a different conversation than today. But if you are just starting your career, you're still at university, or you're looking for something that will help you move into accounting, FMAA is what will help you do that. It will give you that foundation of what budgets are without getting lost in all of the detail that's in CMA budgeting. You can start understanding ratios without having to get into the DuPont formula or whatever crazy ratio that they have in CMA that people don't understand as much. So FMAA is that foundation that will prepare you to go into CMA. The other thing is, if you've never taken a professional certification exam, FMAA is a better place to start. My personal opinion, and I have no statistics to support this, this is just me spending 25 years talking to people. I think in your first professional certification exam, whatever, it doesn't matter what certification it is, in your first professional certification exam, you probably do at least 10% worse than you should. You're nervous. You don't know what to expect. They tell you to go to the test center and but you don't know what that is. And so you're nervous. You're worried that you're going to run out of time. You're panicking that the exam's going to be so much harder. So the first exam you take, you don't do as well. Just, you know it, but you can't get it out for whatever reason. So FMAA is a better place to go through that learning process of a professional certification exam than CMA. And so if you're new to this, FMAA may be a place to start, just in terms of going through that process of studying, going through that process of going to the test center and checking in and having them check your pockets and make certain, I mean, all that whole process. Learn that, get that out of the way when on FMAA rather than CMA. So that's kind of how those two are connected to each other. There's some questions about AI tools that we won't that we won't go into. Just I'll just want to say this again. I think CMA is a great initial certification in your career, but after you get CMA, you can't stop. That's not the end of everything that you need to know. It's a great starting point. It's a great foundation. And as I said earlier, you will learn, you will have another certification in the future. Okay. We just don't know yet, or you don't know yet, what it needs to be. And I'll give you an example. I have an older brother, started in accounting, became a CPA. And I was talking to him a few years ago, and I asked, hey, so what certifications do you have now? And he listed 2 different certifications he has. Okay. I'm in the certification business. I'm kind of aware of a lot of certifications that exist. And I had never heard of the 2 certifications that he had. But when I just kind of pause for a moment and I think about the name of the certification and the fact that he's involved in litigation support, he works with lawyers when there's a court case. And I kind of thought, yeah, well, based on the name of that certification and what you do as your job, they're matched very well. But if he had started 25 years ago, that may not have been what he thought he was going to go into. And so you get CMA, you start your career, you get a few years in, you get promoted, you end up in consulting, you end up in finance, you see where you went, see what you like. See what you like do, and that will help you decide what that next education is that you need to get, what that next certification, what that next course is, what that next learning you need to do. But you just need to be ready to continue to learn for the rest of your career. It's when you stop learning that your career is going to stop also. And so just be prepared to keep learning. And to keep asking questions.
Yeah, that's awesome, Brian. So I think I have one question here, I think, which is really interesting, is What common mistakes do you see candidates go through?
Well, I'll answer that. I'll give two answers to that. One is a more practical and one is a more theoretical answer. The practical answer goes back to what I said at the very beginning. If you are studying for CMA or any professional certification, you need to make certain that you have all of the tools you need. And that's what happens when you study with business mentors. You get all of those tools. Yes, you can sort through it all yourself, but it's not necessarily the most efficient way to do it. So the mistakes people make, they don't go to class and they don't ask questions. When there's something you don't understand, okay, you come to overhead variance analysis and you read overhead variance analysis and you read it again and you read it again and you still don't understand it. You can do one of three things. You can hope it's not on your exam. Just, oh, they won't ask any questions about that. Okay, that's not a good strategy. You can go to Google or AI now and ask your question. And the problem with that is when you go into AI and you ask it to explain to you overhead variance analysis, your answer is going to be so much bigger than you need to know for your exam. So what you can do is ask your teachers. Hey, I didn't understand this about variance overhead analysis. And when you ask your teacher, the answer is going to be about CMA, not for some multinational company. Just it's going to be about what you need to know for the CMA exam. So you have resources available to you. Use them. Ask questions. Now, I'll tell you a true story about me and the strategy of they won't ask anything on the exam. When I took the CPA exam a little more than 30 years ago, on the tax exam, there was a topic about alternative minimum tax. And I didn't like it. I couldn't understand it. The night before my exam, I was in my hotel room studying, and I got to alternative minimum tax, and I said, I never understood it. I tried a lot. I never understood it. It's unlikely I'm going to understand it tonight. And tomorrow, there'll be one or two questions, and I'll guess C, and I'll be okay. Well, when I was taking that CPA exam, there were 72 questions on the exam. I went to my exam, and it said questions 13 through 25 or something like that. No, more than that. Yeah, 13 through 25 are about the alternative minimum tax. I saw that and I thought, well, I could just go home now and save the time because that was 1/6 of the exam about a topic that I didn't understand. I failed that exam. The next time I came back to retake that part, I knew everything about alternative minimum tax. And there were no questions, but I was ready if there had been questions. So the first mistake, the practical one, is ask questions. As you don't understand something, ask. And now, if you're asking a definition, what does this word mean? You can ask Google that. But don't ask Google to explain process costing to you. Ask your teachers that. Okay. Now, on a more theoretical part about studying for the exam, and this kind of a couple of questions kind of touched on this. It is not easy to pass CMA. Okay, it's not easy. It's possible, but it's not easy. And so what has to happen for you to pass CMA is you have to study. People ask, what are the shortcuts? There's a syllabus. If you know everything on the syllabus, you're ready to take your exam. If you don't know everything on the syllabus, you need to study. Okay, so you need to study, and it's difficult because you are going to be studying for 6 months, 9 months, a year, 18 months. And in that time that you are studying, one of your friends is going to have a birthday. You're going to want to go on vacation. There's going to be a soccer match you want to go to. There's going to be things you want to, and yes, you're going to do some of them. But there will be times when you have to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go watch the football match with you. I'm going to stay home and study. Now, that's not easy unless you know why you are doing it. So the theoretical part of being ready for the exam is this. There is one question that I can ask you. And if you answer this question correctly, you will pass the exam. If you answer this question incorrectly, you will not pass the exam. It's just one question. Okay, you ready? Here's the question. The question you need to be able to answer correctly is this. Why are you studying CMA? That's it. Why are you studying CMA? Now, if we were all together in a room, I'd stop and I'd ask you to share your reasons. And I know what people would say. Somebody would say, well, I want to be smarter. And somebody would say, I want the letters after my name. And somebody would say, I want to build my career. And finally, somebody would say, I want to make more money. And somebody will say, I get a bonus if I pass the exam. Yes. The thing about this question is that any answer is the right answer. And if the answer is, I want a better job, I want a higher salary, I want a bonus, that's fine. That's a correct answer. Because on that Tuesday evening, you make a study schedule, Tuesday evening is your time to study. When your friend calls and says, hey, let's go watch the football match tonight, you need to be able to say, I can't. I've got my exam in 2 months. I need to study tonight because I've got a schedule and I've got a plan. If you know why you are taking CMA, you will be able to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to study. I'm not going to go tonight. I have to study because I am making my future career better. That's my why. If you don't know why you're studying, yeah, you'll go watch the football match today, tomorrow, the next day, you'll go every night because you don't care. And so part of what you need to do while you're studying is identify your why. Why am I doing this? What is it? And okay, it's salary. Okay, everybody says they love their work. That's fine. I'm happy that you love your work. But if they stopped paying you, you would stop working. You don't love your work that much. It's okay if the reason you're studying CMA is you want a higher salary, you want a promotion, you want a better job, you want a different company. That's fine. But remember that, because that reason is what's going to help you study when there's other things you would rather do than studying. And so ask questions and keep in mind why it is you're doing this. And if you remember the benefit that's coming, one of the ways, I'll say one more thing and then I'll stop. One of the ways we measure return on investment is normally monetarily. You invest a certain amount of money, the return is a certain amount of money, and we calculate an ROI. One of the things to do for professional certification, CMA, is to calculate the ROI based on time. How long do you have to study? And we'll make it 2 years. Okay. It may be 6 months, but we'll be conservative. Okay, we'll be good, proper accountants, and we'll be conservative. And we say it's going to take you 2 years to study. And then the question is, how long will you benefit from CMA? You will benefit from now, the day you start studying, until the time you retire, which might be 30 years. A 2-year investment, a 30-year return. Okay, now, math is not always my best strong suit in the world, but that's an ROI of 15. Okay. That's a good ROI.
Yeah.
When you get into the investing
Also, that's
world,
good
that's a very good
explanation.
ROI. Okay, it may indicate that the business is not fully legal if that's the ROI of the business that has a 15 ROI. But what this means is you need to keep in mind, yes, you're not going to go to every football match this season, but it's a year that you're studying, a year that you're making this commitment for a 30-year benefit. Okay, this is a long-term decision that you're making. This is a long-term capital investment that you are making in your career.
Yeah. So to your point, Brian, we have here 3 successful success stories. Myself, Ahmed, and Moataz. And myself, for example, I went through the CMA exam for 7 times.
Okay.
Yeah, I failed. Sit again
7
for the
times.
same exam. I fail and sit
Yeah.
again. and to the ROI point, when we send a proposal to a client to implement a system for him in consulting world, we do that. So let's say Ahmed and Moataz are 2 resources, and I have to provide the client their resume and their background. For a resource with a CMA credentials, we actually charge higher than any other resources. And in consulting world, we charge per hour. So even if your CMA consultant just received a phone call from you, we're going to charge you for 1 hour. And Deloitte hour is really expensive.
Yeah.
We charge that for.
Yeah, we charge, emphasizing the charge part of that.
Yes.
Charge.
And totally agree with you, Brian, about if you know why, it will generate your discipline. This is the only thing I'm telling my students in the first session. The most efficient, the most one who understand everything is not the one who passed the exam. The one who has the discipline with me over the 7 months for the part, he will pass directly. So I will add, if you know why, it will generate your discipline now.
Yep. And the next thing to do for discipline is make a study schedule. Each week, I'm going to study Monday evening, Tuesday morning, Wednesday evening, because, and it's interesting, this is the benefit of a study schedule is actually not the time you're studying. The benefit of the study schedule is the time you're not studying. Because once you decide to study CMA, you really no longer have the question of free time, because you could always be studying. You come home from work on Monday, you come home from classes on Monday, you could study. You wake up on a holiday, you could study. Anytime you're not doing something, you could study. And so it's always on your, you're just buried beneath this always being able to study. But if you make a study schedule and you say, I'm going to study Monday and Wednesday and Thursday evenings, then when your friend calls on Tuesday and says, hey, you want to go to the football match today? You can say, yes, I do. Because Tuesday isn't a study time. And I can go to the football match and I can enjoy it because this isn't my time to study. If you'd called me yesterday, I would have said no. If you called me tomorrow, I would have said no. But today, so that study schedule of when you're going to study helps you enjoy all of the other hours that you're not studying, because you can enjoy it. You can say, I'm just gonna watch TV tonight because tonight's not my study time. I've got my plan. I know when I'm going to take the exam. I know how much I need to study. I've got my plan. This is my time to relax and be ready to study tomorrow. So make a study plan, not for those 10 hours a week that you study. It's for all of those other hours a week that you don't study, so you can enjoy them because it's not study time.
So one last question before we wrap up.
Yep.
I think we have been a lot, and the conversation were really good. Thank you, Brian, for that. So someone here is asking about when she goes through the CMA questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason that there's CIA questions is because it used to be that the CIA exam covered a lot of the topics that are on CMA. There used to be a part of the CIA exam that was management accounting.
Yeah.
And so overhead allocation is overhead allocation on every exam. And so we put them in because we know that they're good questions, that are exam questions that have been developed properly to be an exam question. And so it's just a function of those are questions that cover the same topics that are on the CMA exam.
Awesome. Perfect. So I think that will be it for today. And we really enjoyed talking to you, Brian, and talking to you, Ahmed and Moataz. It was really, really great conversation and really good insights from everyone. And we really thank you, Brian, for joining us for today. Looking forward for more sessions, specifically to talk about the AI. And actually, before just before you joined, we were talking about, me, Ahmed, and Moataz, we were talking about planning for additional seminars to talk about AI. And I think this is an interesting evolving subject that we could bring in other seminars in the future.
I mean, AI is a huge tool, but you have to have the foundation to know what you're supposed to do with it. And if you don't understand the business, AI is, as I say, you get a lot of pretty charts and graphs that don't really help anybody.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much. This was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I hope it was a value add for everybody that was attending. I know we never actually talked about what's on the CMA exam in detail, but I think we addressed a lot of other questions and issues as well. So I hope it was a value add for everybody.
Thank you
very much.
Happy to have you
Thank you.
today. And see you soon in Egypt, inshallah. My friend.
I hope so. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
And in Riyadh as well.
If I go to one, I'll probably go to the other. So
okay, very good.
Great.
We are
Thank
waiting
you all. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. ممكن الناس اللي في
الناس اللي جوه
السيشن ايه
ممكن الناس اللي جوه يبقى
اللي في السيشن لو في questions بقى كمان احنا ممكن هنعمل سيشن تانية سواء عن الاي اي او الاكاونتنج احمد وحسام احنا they promised يعني هم وعدوا ان هو هيبقى في كذا سيشن عن الاي اي from foundations بقى from scratch ايه اللي ممكن نستخدمه enhance our job. فان شاء الله هنبدأ نشتغل على ده. طيب خلينا ناخد لان انا شايف ناس رفع ايديها. احنا كنا هننهي السيشن بس خلينا ناخد اسئله سريعه. اوكي
ممكن انسحب
طيب،
لان انا
جعان.
في سمبوسه مستنيه.
انا عارف انت قاعد
انا
جعان.
تعبت من القعده، انا مش ما اقعدش
انت
كده.
قاعد جعان. طيب اوكي. طيب لو في حد
قبل بس يا معتز ما نبتدي ناخد انسايتس من الناس، انا حابب اقول عشان بس نسيت الاكسبكتيشنز. اي سيمينار بعد كده هيبقى عن الاي اي هيبقى فيه معلومات مهمه جدا، فمحتاجين الناس يكون بتركيز عالي في السيشنز دي. الحاجه الثانيه، السيشنز دي هتكون فيها مصطلحات بالانجلش، فنتمنى ان الناس ان هي تكون برضو تكاتش معانا المصطلحات دي. الحاجه الثالثه ان هي مش هتبقى تريننج سيشن اكتر ما ان احنا هندي فكره عامه عن الاي اي وان الاي اي بيشتغل ازاي وايه التولز اللي ممكن تستعملها.
اوكي بيرفكت. بس هتبقى بالعربي ان شاء الله، بس في مصطلحات عشان يعني برضه we are not
ما هو
native
لازم
language English فيعني لو سمحت يعني.
بصوا احنا بس عشان عايز اضيف حاجه للشباب. احنا اضطرينا ان احنا نعمل السيشن ده بالانجلش، مش علشان نضايقكم، ده علشان نعرفكم ان الموضوع مهم. موضوع مش رفاهيه ولا جوك، احنا مش بنهزر. فاحنا بنعرفكم الموضوع مهم. انت عشان تقعد تتكلم مع هاي ليفل سكيلد بيرسونز، ناس مهريين بشكل مرتفع جدا وناس معروفين وناس اقوياء، محتاج انك تجين لانجوج وتجين اكسبريشنز. تمام، تعرف تتكلم وتعرف تعرف تعبر عن نفسك بالانجلش. مش بطلب منك ان انت تلقي شعر بالانجلش، على الاقل تقدر تتكلم بالانجلش. طيب ازاي توصل للليفل ده؟ الليفل ده محتاج اولا ممارسة، انك تسمع، ممارسة انك تتكلم، وتتكلم مع حد محترف. ما تتكلمش مع نفسك لانك انت مش هتعرف تقيم نفسك. فلازم تاخد كورس واحنا كلنا دفعنا فلوس كتير مع ناس سكيلد ان احنا نتكلم معاهم، بس ان احنا بس ايه، ناخد وندي معاهم، نسمع اللانجوج ونسمع الاكسنت وان احنا نتكلم. موضوع الانجليش بتاع المدارس اللي هو اللي هو كتابة ده، ده الانجليش ده مش مطلوب خالص، ده عشان تخلص بيه امتحان. بس الانجليش الصحيح هو انك تتكلم اكنك طفل صغير لسه مولود وبتتعلم الكلام. انت وانت طفل وانت صغير مش بيقولوا لك امسك الورقه والقلم واكتب، بالعكس هم بيعلموك الكلام. فانك تتكلم اهم كتير من انك تكتب وتقرا. تمام يا شباب؟ لان انا حسيت الناس مش متقبله السيشن بشكل قوي. هم حابين الموضوع، بس وجدت في بعض الكلام في الشاتنج ان الناس مش حابه ومش وتعبانه وعايزه الكلام يتعاد. فالموضوع ده محتاجين الشباب ان هي تفوكس على موضوع الانجليش سكيلز، لان ده مهم جدا. ده اهم من انك تتعلم اكسل، انك انت ممكن
والله يا
حتى
احمد،
الانجليش تشتغل اي حاجه. الاكسل انك تتعلم مهاره. الاكسل ده مش قصه يعني، الاكسل ده في اسبوع بنتعلمه يعني، مش موضوع. هو انت تتعلم الاساسيات وبعدين تتعلم التريكيز. وفي فيديوهات اصلا على اليوتيوب بتعلم التريكيز اساسا. يعني ممكن فيديو ساعتين تتعلم ازاي تعمل فاينانشال ستيتمنتس او اكاونتنج سايكل with امريكان ميثود على على الاكسل في ساعتين. ممكن تبني موديل. تمام. وكل واحد ليه شخصيه في الاكسل، مفيش حد بياخد شخصيه التانيين. يعني الاكسل ده انا عن نفسي انا مش بعمل كودنج على الاكسل. تمام. في ناس ما شاء الله تقعد تعمل كودنج على الاكسل. انا سوري اللي انا هقوله ده، دول دول متعلمين مهارة في مكان مش بتاعها. ليه؟ لأن الإكسل ما يستحملش كودنج أصلا. ده هو احنا بنتعامل معاه بالشوكة والسكينة، اللي هو أنت بتعمل شيت إكسل بأقل معادلات ممكنة عشان تعرف تشتغل عليه وتعرف تستعمله، لأنه ممكن يضرب منك، ممكن تلاقيه ايرور، ممكن تلاقيه اتمسح، ممكن تعمل له ريفرش ما يشتغلش. فموضوع الاكسل ده موضوع سهل جدا تتعلموه مع الوقت. بس الانجليش ده اللغه دي لازم تتعلموها بشكل مستمر وتمارسوها بشكل مستمر لانها بتتنسي. تمام. بس انا حبيت اتكلم بشكل بسيط قبل ما اقفل علشان اسيب زمايلي يكملوا. يلا.
حبيت بس اضيف نقطه يا احمد قبل ما تقفل، ان المحاضره دي كانت لازم تبقى بالانجلش، لان براين هوك هو انجلش سبيكر، هو ما بيتكلمش عربي.
عارف
ف
طبعا ده لازم.
هي
فكان
مسجلة
لازم،
فعلا
هو
يا
الراجل
جماعة.
طبعا لازم بيبقى موجود، فلازم نتكلم معاه باللغه اللي هو بيفهمها يعني.
هي
طيب.
مسجلة، الناس اللي بتسأل على المحاضرة مسجلة، أيوة مسجلة.
نعم هي مسجله. الامر
وهيبقى في
الاخير،
سيشنز تانية بالعربي إن شاء الله
معلش انا هضيف حاجه اخيره خالص بعد الانجليش وبعد الاكسل. يجب انك تعرف ازاي تبحث عن المعلومة. learn how to reach the information او the details. ازاي توصل للمعلومة. لان احنا في الشغل احنا مش عارفين كل حاجة. مستحيل، مفيش حد عارف كل حاجة. ومفيش حد بيدخل اندستري جديدة او اوبريشن او اورجانيزيشن جديدة وعارف كل حاجة فيها. فبنضطر نقعد ندور. هل انت مطلوب منك انك تسأل على كل حاجة؟ في ناس هترد عليك وفي ناس هتديك معلومة غلط يعني، وفي ناس هتديك معلومة غلط لان هم عارفينها غلط، مش ان هم بوقعوك يعني، هم عارفينها
بقول
غلط
لهم الاي
اساسا.
اي.
فانت لما تيجي تدور على المعلومة حضرتك لازم تتعلم ازاي تدور. عندك شات جي بي تي طبعا، البيد المدفوع الفري ده ضايع. تمام. لان انا لما جربت الفري وجربت البيد، لا البيت مختلف تماما. انت بتتعامل مع حاجه بتفهم، اما الفري ده هو تقريبا بتتعامل مع كائن غبي. تمام. ازاي تدور عن جوجل يعني. حاول انك تعلم نفسك بنفسك يعني. في ساعات اسئله انا بلاقيها بتتكرر من نفس الشخص يعني. اتعلم انت ازاي تدور. ما تسألش واحد وتستنى يقعد اسبوع ولا 10 ايام عشان يرد على سؤالك وتعطل حياتك عليه هو. لا، مفيش الكلام ده. انا توقفت عن سؤال الأشخاص من حوالي 7 8 سنين بسبب مرة سألت واحد على حاجة رد عليا بعد أسبوع. قلت والله ما أنا سأل بني آدم تاني. تمام خالص، ما بقتش أسأل حد. اي حاجه انا بعملها او بتعلمها انا بتعلمها من السكرين بتاعه الكمبيوتر. لا عمري سالت حد يديني ريبورت، ولا سالت حد بتعمل ده ازاي، ولا سالت حد بتشتغل التاسك دي ازاي، ولا اي حاجه، الا اذا مثلا حاجات كريتيكال انا مش عارف اوصل لها في الشغل. اما حاجات في النولج والاديوكيشن بتاعتنا لا، انا ما بسالش بني ادم خالص، انا بدور على الحاجه بنفسي. تمام، فانا لازم تتعلموا الموضوع ده. يلا يا شباب، اراكم على خير، يومكم
يلا
جميل.
الحسن بوسه.
شرفنا بيك يا احمد، ويوم كان
مفيش سمبوسه يا عم، انا
مليان
عايز اتفرج
معلومات.
على المسلسل. يلا. يلا سلام.
يلا
سلام.
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 طيب احنا يعني مش عايزين نطول اكتر من كده، بس يعني لو في حاجة ما تجاوبش عليها في السيشن ممكن نجاوبها يا حسام.
طيب انا
يعني
شايف في
يعني هناخد
الاخ
بس
وليد.
5 minutes more سريعا.
ماشي مفيش مشكله، انا عندي وقت. طيب الاخ وليد ممكن بس نفتح له المايك.
السلام
هو
عليكم.
رافع ايده.
عليكم السلام. يعني قبل ما تبدأ بس شكرا للأستاذ صابر، أنا فاكرك طبعا، أنت درست معايا. أستاذ رضا أعتقد، أستاذ رضا موسى. فشكرا لحضرتك، أنا فاكرك طبعا، وجود لك. اتفضل اتفضل يا أستاذ وليد.
مستر معتز، حضرتك كنت اتكلمت عن الايبيدا مالتبلاير، وانا كنت سالت
أنا
شات
كنت
جي بي تي فاداني
كنت
رينج
بتكلم عن
كبير
الإيكويتي
جدا.
مالتيبلاير
آه،
اي بليف.
م-
هو الموضوع كان من 2 years يعني، كان اداني داتا غلط. سوري، كان اداني ريزلتس غلط.
هو اداني رينج كبير جدا في الصناعه اللي انا شغال فيها، فهل في مكان اقدر اجيب منه ارقام مور اكيوريت، حاجه قريبه اقدر اشتغل بيها، ولا
انت كده
آه،
بتسالني على الايه، الايبيدا مالتيبلاير، عشان انت بتعمل فالويشن صح؟
مظبوط؟
لا، انا خلي بالك، انا كنت بقول حاجه تانية خالص. انا بديله انبوتس وبقول له من الانبوتس يطلع لي الايكويتي مالتيبلاير، بس الداتا بتاعتك دي لا، ليها سايتس اعتقد مدفوعه. وكمان بتشوف الشركات المماثله ليك اللي في البورصه. يعني انت مثلا لو شركه حديد مثلا، فبتشوف الشركات المماثله ليك في البورصه، وتاخد المماثل ليك منها، فما بتشتغلش من نفسك يعني. بس خد بالك ان دول two different topics. هو اداني داتا من عيني، حسيت ان الرقم غلط، فاضطريت احط التيبل ده على الاكسل واحسبه، فطلع فعلا مديني الريزلتس غلط. بس حضرتك لو بتبحث، اي بليف ان انت تشوف شركه موجوده في البورصه، اي بليف، وتاخد الداتا بتاعتها از ريفرنس ليك. اما مش يعني هتجيب منين؟
يعني انا النشاط بتاعي اساس مكتبي، فما
في
اعتقدش ان
شركات
ان في
هتلاقيها،
شركه.
في شركات طبعا هتلاقيها في البورصه موجوده، سواء هنا او يعني مش هقول لك بره، لان مايت بي يكون الكوست مختلفه والكلام ده. هتشوف الداتا دي وتبدا تستخدمها منهم. اما انت الحل هتسال شات جي بي تي، اي دونت بليف ان هو هيدي لك معلومه حقيقيه.
هو فعلا اداني رينج كبير جدا، يعني من 3 ل
انا
8
برضو
مثلا.
كنت بسيرش عن حاجه قبل كده وبجيب داتا منه، لاني كنت بعمل دراسه جدوى عن مصانع سيراميك. واداني داتا بعيده خالص عن الواقع. لما جبت الداتا الحقيقيه اكتشفت ان هو اداني داتا تانية خالص. فالداتا بتاعت الفاينانشال ستيتمنت يا جماعه لازم بتجيب القوائم الماليه المعتمده للشركات. شات جي بي تي
مم.
هيدي لك ارقام تانية خالص. بس عشان
هو
احنا بنتكلم عن
فعلا
النقطه دي
فعلا
تحديدا، النقطه دي تحديدا،
حتى
حتى لو قلت له
البيت.
عايز الفاينانشال ستيتمنت بتاعت شركه كذا، ممكن يطلع لك داتا اصلا هي مش حقيقيه. لسه ما وصلش
يعني
للمرحله دي اعتقد، اكوردنج للانبوتس بتاعته. بس ده انت ممكن تدخل على مواقع الشركات وتجيب حاجه شبه كده. يعني طبعا الشركات القوائم الماليه بتاعتها بتنشر يعني. اما شات جي بي تي اعتقد ان هو مش هيبقى هيدي لك معلومه ريلايبل، او يعني اي دونت بليف بصراحه. ان انا عملت سيرشنج، كنت بعمل دراسه جدوى على حاجه شبه كده، وما لقيتش الداتا في شات جي بي تي. اضطريت على فكره في داتا بتشتريها من سايتس اولسو برضو يعني.
طيب
طيب، يعني لو ممكن تساعدنا يعني وتقول لنا ايه السايتس دي اللي ممكن.
ممكن، حاضر حاضر، ممكن ابقى انزلها عندي او تواصل معايا وانا هبعتها لك.
ان شاء الله. شكرا
لا،
لذوقك.
نلعب.
شكرا.
اتفضل يا حسام لو كنت عايز تضيف حاجه.
استاذ احمد، انا كنت عايز اقول بس بالنسبه للداتا اللي موجوده على تشات جي بي تي، غالبا بتبقى داتا غلط. لان الشركات بيبقى عندها كونسيرنز كبيره جدا على الكونفيدنشاليتي بتاعت الداتا.
طبعا
فهو
احنا ممنوعين في
مش
الشركه ان
هيقدر.
احنا نحط اي داتا للشغل بتاعنا على شات جي بي تي، اصلا ده بروهيبيتد ان انت
بالظبط.
تديله الاناليسيس، احنا ممنوعين الكلام ده. انت كده بتخترق الرولز بتاعت الشركه اصلا. كلامك مظبوط يعني. يعني
بالظبط.
اقصد حتى لو بتديله معلومه يعمل لك ريبورت، كل الكلام اللي انا بتكلم عنه ده انا بعمل حاجات مثلا لبروجكت ام بي اي، لحاجه انا هشرحها. اما شغل الشركه مستحيل احطه على شات جي بي
بالظبط.
تي كانبوت، ده ممنوع.
بالظبط. في الشركات دلوقتي بيبقى عندها الايجنتس بتاعتها. ان احنا في الشركه عندنا، انا عندي ايجنت
صحيح.
بشتغل عليه لوكالي، بحط عليه الريبورتس بتاعتي وبعمل عليه الشغل بتاعي، بس ده بيفسر ليه الداتا اللي على تشات جي بي تي ما بتبقاش اكيوريت يعني.
مظبوط.
تمام. استاذ احمد.
ممكن نفتح الفويس يا جماعه؟ استاذ
الفويس
احمد
مفتوح لك
حمدي.
كده يا استاذ احمد، تقدر تتكلم. اعمل بس المايك اميوت. اتفضل يا استاذ احمد.
السلام عليكم.
السلام.
وعليكم السلام ورحمه الله وبركاته.
والله يعني بس أنا مبدئيا أحب أشكركم على المحاضرة ديت، يعني كانت الصراحة قيمة جدا بجد، واستفدت منها كتير جدا.
الحمد لله.
وربنا إن شاء الله يعني يجعله في ميزان حسناتكم، والله يعني نشر العلم ده.
جزاك الله خير.
ربنا رب يحفظك. هو أنا بس
نعم.
أنا دلوقتي يعني عندي مشكلة إن أنا مش عارف فعلا أبدأ السي ام اي دي خالص. يعني أنا عندي اللغة لحد ما عائق معايا شوية. آه، ممكن أنا أكون مثلا بفهم اللي بيتقال، ولكن ما بعرفش أرد. انا بحاول ان انا يعني اتجاوز، يعني اتغلب على النقطه ديت، بان انا مثلا ممكن احضر حاجات زي اللي حضراتكم بتعملوها ديت، او ممكن اخش على اليوتيوب احاول ان انا افهم شرح الاكونتنج عموما بالانجلش. فانا عايز ابدا للسي ام اي، ومش عارف بقى. يعني انا حاسس لما بجيب مثلا الماتيريال بحملها بلاقيها ان هي صعبه شويه، او انا مثلا مش هعرف هأدي فيها بالشكل المطلوب اللي يأهلني. فأنا بس محتاج نصايح حضراتكم إن إزاي أعرف أبدأ اشتراك يعني مع حضراتكم، لو بتدوا مثلا في دورات متاحة يعني.
طيب
بس
خليني هوضح لك حاجه. اولا اللي انا فهمته ان انت في الاكاونتنج كويس ولا لا؟ عموما الاكاونتنج، المحاسبه
الحمد
بالعربي.
لله يعني.
اوكي
اه
بيرفكت.
اه
انا دايما عندي نصيحه، ودي انا بعملها من سنين للستودنتس بتوعي. انا بقول له خد محاضره اسمعها، خد محاضرتين اسمعها قبل ما تشترك. حسيت ان المحاضر، انا بكلمك عموما، المحاضر ده انت قادر تفهم منه وتهضم المعلومه. لان هو ده المختلف، ان المحاضره مش بتبقى انجلش. انا ما اقدرش اتكلم المحاضره فولي انجلش اصلا. انا هوك لما زار مصر من سنين زي ما قال، كان بيسالني البارت 1 عندكم كام ساعه؟ قلت له افريج 100 ساعه. فهو الراجل كان اتصدم. ليه؟ لان هو المحاضرات بتاعته هو الكي بوينتس بس، اما الديتيلز في الكتاب. احنا هنا في مصر مختلفين، او في الوطن العربي لا، الديتيلز دي لازم تبقى في المحاضره. فانا عشان كده بقول لك ممكن تسمع محاضره لان سواء هتذاكر مع حد او هتذاكر لوحدك، يعني مش لازم تاخد الكورس. انا بقول لك ادفايس عامه، اسمع المحاضره. هتلاقي المحاضر بيشرح عربي، ما تذاكرش لوحدك. يعني في حاله ان مستوى الانجليش بتاعك ضعيف وانت عايز تروح للسي ام اي، التكرار بتاع المعلومه هينهانس الانجليش بتاعك. يعني لما نتكلم على، اما مش الترجمه الحرفيه، لان وانت بتتكلم في المحاضره انت بتكرر المعلومه اكتر من مره وبتشرح المعنى نفسه. يعني انا لما بكلمك مثلا عن الاوفر هيدز، ما باجيش اقول لك هي اعباء اضافيه محمله، ده ترجمه عربي. انا بقول لك هي الكوست اذر ذان الدايركت ليبر، وبقعد اشرح هي الغيره ولا الصاموله and so on. فالتكرار ده بالشكل ده بيربط المعلومه ذهنيا، فانت بتبدا تكرر. ده مش، خلي بالك برضو عشان اكون اونست، مش من محاضره ولا اتنين مستواك هيعلى. ما تكرر تقرر. وشفنا كتير جدا كيسز ادخل عندي. انا مش عايز اكرر الكلام اللي انا قلته قبل كده. ادخل عندي شوف، ما شاء الله عندي عندنا ستودنتس
ما
كتيره
شاء
كان
الله.
مستواهم في العربي ضعيف وبقوا سيرتيفايد. وهم اللي قالوا الستوريز دي بعد كده، مش انا. يعني هم اللي قالوا السكسس ستوريز دي. في شادي ما شاء الله، لو دخلت عندي على البيج هتشوف الستوري بتاعته. انا نفسي اتفاجئت بيها حقيقه يعني. حد فوق ال 40 وقاعد بيشرح، وايه اللي انت بتقوله ده انجلش. انا راجل شاطر جدا في المحاسبه العربي. فلما سمعنا ده عرفنا ان احنا ماشيين في التراك الصحيح. بس ده يتطلب مجهود منك زي ما هوك قال النهارده، ان انت تبقى عارف انت بتذاكر ليه، لانك محتاج تذاكر يوميا 2 hours at least. دي الادفايس بتاعتي ليك، ان انت لا هيبقى صعب تذاكر لوحدك، لانك هتبقى عايز تسمع حد بيشرح بالعربي وبيقرا الكتاب بالانجلش معاك وبيحل معاك. هتبقى محتاج منتور،
بالظبط. ما
سواء
عشان كده
هتذاكر في كورس او فيديوز موجوده.
بالظبط. ما عشان كده برضه انا كنت بسأل السؤال دوت، ان انا كنت عايز ابدا مع حضراتكم، لان انا يعني حاولت ان انا كذا مره اذاكر مع نفسي، الموضوع يعني بات بالفشل يعني.
طيب
في
ممكن
الوقت الحالي
تتواصل
الحمد لله
معاهم
الظروف
على
بالنسبه
البيج.
لي مواتيه. انا بالنسبه لي الحمد لله الظروف الى حد ما يعني دلوقتي بالنسبه لي مواتيه ان انا اقدر ان انا اذاكر يعني عشان.
يعني بص، هو انت قلت الخلاصه ان هو انت محتاج وقت، انت محتاج تنفست الوقت بتاعك في المذاكره. هو في كورس بدأ بالفعل، لسه بادئ. ممكن يعني مش عارف، حد من التيم موجود يتواصل معاك، استاذه جهاد، تبعت لك الديتيلز، او تكلمني على الماسنجر وابعت لك البيزنس منتورز، يعني البيج بتاعت بيزنس منتورز، تفاصيل عليها.
تمام، مش
او ابعت
متشكر ليك
لي،
جدا.
هبعت لك التفاصيل يعني.
وانا
ربنا
نزلت
يبارك لك بإذن الله.
الرقم التليفون، يقدر يتواصل معانا على الواتساب.
شكرا 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 لحضرتك.
خلاص تمام، متشكر جدا
تمام.
متشكر جدا، جزاكم الله كل
العفو.
خير.
ناخد اخر حد بقى، استاذ احمد برضو. اعمل ان ميوت للمايك، انا فتحت لك المايك.
السلام عليكم، ازيك يا استاذ حسام؟
عليكم السلام ورحمه الله وبركاته. الحمد لله تمام.
اتمنى تكون بخير انت استاذ معتز.
اهلا وسهلا.
الله يبارك فيك.
هو الاول انا حابب اشكركم جدا على السكشن بتاعت النهارده، especially ان انا اصلا كنت بدات فتره ان انا ادرس سي ام اي، وقفت وكنت يعني للصدفه البحته انا كنت بدرس سي ام اي. الكتاب كان مستر هوك، فانا لما جيت راجعت كده الاسم بتاعه، ايه ده مش ده هوك اللي هو الكتاب بتاع السي ام اي؟
هو
فعشان كده اهتميت اكتر بالسكشن، وهو لا باين عليه يعني العلم، اللهم
ما شاء
بارك
الله.
يعني يا رب. ف يعني لا، سي ام اي لا غنى عنها، بس انا كان عندي سؤال محدد. انا عارف ان الكور بتاع السي ام اي هو البادجت والبلاننج وكده، بس هل السي ام اي تغني عن شهادة الاف ام في اي ولا لا؟
حسام موجود؟ مش عارف، حسام تقريبا خرج. طيب هو انت كده بتكلمني في two different certificates اصلا خالص، مفيش اي تشابه بينهم. ولكن الاف ام في اي شهاده جيده، شهاده جيده، ممكن تاخدها بعد السي ام اي. لو بنتكلم في ايه الاتقل، ايه اللي فيها نولج اكتر، ايه اللي هتدي لك معلومات اكتر، ديفينتلي سي ام اي. الاف ام في اي شهاده جيده برضو، ممكن تاخدها بعد كده او قبل، الديبند انت محتاج ايه. بس انت واضح ان انت مور ريليفنت بتدور على السي ام اي. ف سي ام اي طبعا كتايتل وكنولج اقوى بكتير. الاف ام في موجوده على فكره، بزنس منتورز بتشرح الاثنين. انا بقول لك انت الديبند، انت هدفك ايه دلوقتي؟ انت هدفك تاخد شهاده لايت شويه، حاجه تدخلك سوق الشهادات المهنيه، ويبقى معاك اف ام في اي هتدي لك شويه اكسل، شويه اكاونتنج، شويه ديسكاونت كاش فلو زي بتعملها براكتيكال. بس السي ام اي طبعا هي اقوى في الماركت لو بنتكلم على قوه الشهادات المهنيه، سواء في الجلف او في مصر.
تمام. انا معلش انا اسف ان انا اقطعك وكده. انا فاهم السي ام اي، وانا زي ما قلت لحضرتك بدات في بارت 1، فانا عارف الكور بتاع السي ام اي، بس مش عارف الكور بتاع الاف ام في اي. يعني هو السيم اي هو بيديني جزء كويس في البادجيتنج والبلانن، وان التانية اللي هي اف ام في اي هي المالتي، او البارتس بتاعتها كلها بادجيتد وبلانن، ولا الفرق ما بينهم ايه؟
هو انا قلت لك ان هو تو ديفرنت ابروتشز. التناول بتاع الشهادات مختلف تماما اصلا. هو حتى لو بيدرس لك هناك ديسكاونت كاش فلو، هو الابروتش بتاعه مختلف. انت فاهمني؟
مم.
انت هو الديبند انت محتاج ايه حاليا. انت محتاج تذاكر حاجه اطار عملي زي الاف ام في اي، اطار يعني للنولج، ولا تدرس نولج ديبلي للمعلومه زي السي ام اي. انت بتدرس الديب نولج بتاع البادجيتنج، بتاع
اه.
البلاننج. يعني لا
مهم.
غنى عن المانجيريال اكاونتنج اقوى حاجه فيها موجوده في الماركت زي ما هوك اتكلم النهارده، مش انا يعني. سي ام اي ديفينتلي، مانجيريال اكاونتنج، البلاننج، البادجيتنج، الكوستنج كمان. فالحاجات دي موجوده. طب ما الحاجه دي موجوده في الاف ام دبل اي كمان، خلينا نقول انها موجوده في الاف ام دبل اي. بس ايه المعلومه فيه؟ هنقول في الاف ام دبل اي بتتناول مثلا 40% من الفكره او 30%، على خلاف السي ام اي. انت كده معايا؟
تمام، شكرا جدا لحضرتك.
ولو حابب تعرف التفاصيل بتاعه الاف ام في اي كامله، ممكن برضو تبعت لبزنس منتورز على الماسنجر، ممكن يبعتوا لك لايف كامل معمول ايه الاف ام في اي وبتدرس فيها ايه. كان في لايف من تقريبا الشهر اللي فات عن الشهاده كامله. فانت كده تبقى سمعت السي ام اي وسمعت الاف ام في اي، وتقرر ويتش سيرتيفيكت. بس انت لو بدات اوريدي في واحده فيهم، وهي دي اللي احنا بنقولها للستودنتس دايما او لزمايلنا على السوشيال ميديا، لو سمحت بلاش تردد كتير. يعني
لا، هو
دايما
هو كمل
دايما
معلش،
دي
اسف
دي
وقطعت.
من اكتر الافات اللي بتحصل للناس، ان هو يدخل في شهاده وبعدين يسمع ان في شهاده تانية حلوه فيدخل فيها، فيرجع فيسمع ان الشهاده ثالثه. ده بيضيع وقت ومجهود وفلوس. قررت تبدا في شهاده، خد القرار الصح. عارف الباسنج، الباس بتاعها، اقصد ايه الباس بتاعها. انت عايز تبقى ايه كمان سنتين؟ انا عايز ابقى بادجيتنج هيد مثلا، عايز ابقى اف بي ان اي مانجر، عايز ابقى سي اف او. هل الكلام ده بيدعمه الاف ام في اي، ولا الاف ام في اي هتبقى شهاده مكمله للي انا بعمله؟ هتبقى مكمله البوزيشنز اللي انا بقولها دي. هتبقى المين فيها اللي يدعمك سي ام اي. طيب الاف ام في اي هتدي لك حته زياده بس.
تمام، شكرا جدا ليك.
العفو. انت رحت فين؟
تمام. سمعنا معتز؟
انا سامعك كده. كنت بدور
تمام.
عليك عشان تجاوب.
فصلت بس عندي الويبينار لمدة دقيقة كده ورجعت تاني.
ولا يهمك.
أعتقد إحنا كده تمام النهاردة إن شاء الله، يعني يكون لينا ويبينارز أكتر، خصوصا حتة ديجيتال ترانسفورميشن والاي اي والإمباكت بتاع الاي اي على الوظائف والمستقبل اللي جاي. زي ما قلت قبل كده خلال الويبينار، الشركات هنا ابتدت تفورس حتة استعمال الاي اي. فان شاء الله يكون في ويبينارز تانية بتتكلم عن الاي اي وعن ايه الابلكيشنز اللي نقدر نستعمل فيها الاي اي. فعندنا هنا سؤال كمان، فاستاذه زينب معلش كان ايه هو سؤالك اللي ما تجاوبش؟
As a CMA holders, do you think that case-based questions are better than essay؟ لا، احنا يعني هو بصي، السؤال جميل وكل حاجة، بس في النهاية it is what it is. ده الواقع دلوقتي، ان هم غيروا، وانا I believe ان هم بيغيروا للأحسن، more practical. الإساي نفسه انا محاضر بقالي سنين، كان عامل للناس هس وبالعكس انا اكتر حاجة كنت بحبها في الامتحان على عكس الناس الإساي. فانا شايف ان التطوير ده هيبقى للاحسن مش للاسوأ، يبقى مور براكتيكال كيسز، هيقربك اكتر بسوق العمل وهكذا. تمام.
تمام. اعتقد احنا كده تمام النهارده ان شاء الله، ومتشكر جدا. لا، مش هيبقى فيها practical examples using laptop، لان دي هتبقى مش محاضرة تدريبية، هتبقى مجرد بس بنتكلم عن المفاهيم العامة.
بيدي لك انسايتس، انت بتاخد الانسايتس دي وتبدا تجو ثرو ات وتبدا تستخدمها انت في حياتك اليوميه.
تمام. فأنا بشكرك يا معتز على تنظيم
انا بجد بشكرك جدا، انا
الويبينار
استمتعت
الجميل.
النهارده. احنا ما شفتكش بقالي سنين الحقيقه. وانا والله حقيقي استمتعت بالسيشن، والناس ما شاء الله بالرغم ان هي كانت انجلش كلها، انا استمتعت باليوم، وانا نفسي استفدت من هوك واستفدت منك واستفدت من احمد. فربنا يجعله زكاة علم لينا جميعا. وبشكرك والله.
آمين.
التنظيم بتاعك بصراحة انا اللي حابب اشكرك. التنظيم بتاعك مع هوك خلال الاسبوع اللي فات، لان يا جماعة الشغل ده احنا مش هنجيب راجل بروفيشنال كده الا ما نكون احنا بروفيشنال كمان. لذلك انا اخترت حسام الحقيقة. انا اشتغلت معاه، كان في المكتب اللي جنبي على طول، فعارف هو قد ايه بروفيشنال وقد ايه هو هيشرفني بصراحة. وهو ما اثرش. انا يمكن تو بيزي الفتره دي جدا، ف I handed all the preparation to حسام. انا اديت له كل البريباريشن، فلو في حد يتشكر النهارده هو حسام. appreciated your efforts
لا
يعني
بالعكس يا
انا
معتز،
مش محتاج اقول
بالعكس.
لك، انا مشور ان انت كنت هتعمل ده اصلا يعني، ما كنتش خايف خالص، بالعكس، وما شاء الله عليك يعني.
شكر جدا يا حبيبي، وان شاء الله يكون في استفاده للناس كلها، وتكون زكاة علم عننا كلنا ان شاء الله.
باذن الله. واديك شايف اهو الناس طالبه السيشنز الجايه، فبريبير بقى. احنا اتفقنا ان يبقى في سيشنز ريجولارلي، سواء اي اي او تولز. ف ليتس جو ان شاء الله باذن
ان
الله.
شاء الله، بامر الله ان شاء الله.
شكرا، شكرا لحضراتكم،
ماشي.
كل سنه وانتم
سلام
طيبين.
الله.
تنسوش بقى قيام الليل ان شاء الله، يدعوا لنا معاكم.
القطايف.
اه، مع بعد القطايف بقى. كل سنه وحضراتكم طيبين.
مع
والناس
السلامه.
الاساتذه اللي بتسال على الكورسات، يا ريت تنزلوا لهم الرقم بس وتواصلوا مع الرقم. وفي ديسكاونتس، انا اي بليف ان هم عاملين ديسكاونتس لكل الناس اللي حضروا الويبينار، ريال ديسكاونتس يعني. فبالتوفيق ان شاء الله. شكرا لحضراتكم. شكرا.
شكرا.